Welcome to Puro Politics, the political podcast of the San Antonio Express News. My name is Gilbert Garcia, opinion writer and columnist, and I'm joined by
Carrie Clack, columnist, editorial board.
Nancy Prayer Johnson, deputy editorial board editor.
Metro editor Greg Jefferson.
Today we're going to talk about the latest updates on the situation with Councilman Mark White. We're going to talk about also give you updates on the proposed ceasefire resolution in San Antonio and the continuing adventures of congressional candidate Mayra Flores. But I want to start by talking about Charles Hood, who has been the fire department chief for the past 17 years, the first African-American chief of the San Antonio Fire Department in its history. And he was forced to resign last week after an investigation into his conduct. I guess determined that he was repeatedly using the P word for vagina and continually saying P word always wins, I guess is what he was saying. So, Greg, I mean, what else do we know about what happened and how this? I'm very little. There were some complaints about it.
Yeah. Apparently, this is something he said often, and we don't have a good idea of what the context was. Like, we don't know if the investigation. So the city was investigating. They found that they hired an attorney from Jackson Walker to look into this to these allegations. Found it to be true, but we don't know if there was a specific meeting that really touched this off that upset an employee who then complained to city management. But I mean, we do know that it's look, Charles Hood, this isn't his first controversy. I mean, you'll remember the naked sushi model from 2020. He had gone to a party thrown by a fire department employee. It was basically a fire department gathering. It was, and he was kind of the star of the show, and it featured an apparently nude model covered with sushi, and partygoers were invited to pick sushi off the naked lady, and he was he was kneeling next to the table. And I think he said something like, "I want some tuna," or something. I want me some tuna or something like that. Yeah. And it just he apologized, but it was kind of he was kind of cavalier about it initially, but I think he was contrite later. He was, but it started out by
there's photos.
That's right, yeah. But I mean, even and this isn't there were several Equal Employment Opportunity Commission complaints against the department under him. They didn't specifically relate to his leadership, but they kind of spoke to a culture that was just kind of cowboy in nature. It seemed like a real bro kind of department. And, you had 3 arson investigators filing EEOC complaints in 2019 and 2020, alleging harassment and workplace discrimination. It's just the question of personality and what he infused the department with. It's a serious one. Yeah. I mean, and this is, the fire department has more than 1,700 employees, but only 5% of them are women.
And the city has been wanting to recruit more, and this certainly
it didn't make it easy.
Yeah. There was also an incident in 2021, a more minor incident, but there was an arbitration hearing via Zoom with a firefighter who had been terminated, and I guess the firefighters, or the former firefighters' attorney, was questioning Charles Hood, and he uttered some obscenities along the way, and he had to apologize for that. So there had been some, as you said, some history here. I mean, he's someone who came from Phoenix. He had been, I think, the number 2 person there. He knew Cheryl Scully when she was working there, and she had urged him to apply for the position here, and ended up selecting him. So, I mean, what do we make of his? I mean, it's a kind of thing. When someone's there that long, there have to be some positive things that can come out.
Yeah. Like, he was instrumental in the creation of the Fusion Center, which is like this crisis management multi-agency facility. He was important to that. He streamlined department operations, improved training. So yeah, I mean, it's like, look, clearly he was a good fire chief, but he was a troubled and flawed fire chief. Yeah.
I just wonder what else we don't know. Like what else we don't know about him. I know my mind automatically went to the women on the force, and like what they were subjected to as well. Maybe we don't know. Maybe some stuff that didn't get out. But I think, and that phrase, I know when we wrote about it on the editorial, we described it as vulgar, and we definitely put the expletives in there. We didn't spell it out as per AP style. But I can say that the word vulgar just didn't cut it for me. I'm like, seriously, it's beyond vulgar to me, and it's demeaning, and just like, I mean, at that, I actually gave him the benefit of the doubt for the party, kind of, because when I heard about that and read the articles and things about that party where he showed up and there's this naked model with the sushi, and he kind of, I thought, well, like, number one, did he know? I was trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. Did he know about it? Did he walked in and this was happening and he was trying to just not be the party pooper here? But yeah, he is a public persona and he does need to watch the optics of it, right?
This is on a different level because, as you said, he walked into a party there.
This is different.
And this is something that he had full responsibility for, and that he kept saying it wasn't.
And then I wonder, like, when he said it, was it because a woman or, a female that they got, that they won some argument or some debate or like some kind of conflict? And then that's when he said it. Like, I just wonder what the context is and what else he said and did, you know?
That's the context is important because, wondering, because it could have been any number of reasons.
Yeah.
Why he says it, but again, once you use the word, and if you've used it before, and it is a different thing from the sushi thing, which, which is a tradition, and it may not be the best tradition in how you treat a woman.
He also pointed out in that case that he was. I think the party was a birthday party for a firefighter who was battling with cancer.
So
there were some
he walks
circumstances.
into it.
He described it as a family, family affair. It was a party.
There's no way with this one.
I think he's probably he's been there for 17 years and was probably already thinking about retiring, and didn't seem to put up much of a fight.
Yeah, no. I mean, and it could have just been he was, how many controversies can you withstand? Because going back to 2014, there was another EEOC complaint in which he was accused of making disparaging remarks about Native Americans and a couple of white employees in the fire department. He called them vanilla milk nuts. And
oh my gosh, I don't even remember that.
No, we found out about it last. It was included in
vanilla
milk duds, which is
I love milk duds, and that
I was going to say that's really offensive because milk duds are terrible.
I love them. They're like one of my. I don't have them often, but I do love them.
So we're not sure if it was a compliment or not.
I don't know what he was trying to say.
It's chocolate.
I had no idea.
Creative.
Yeah. So anyway, he had a history of this. He's been he's been reprimanded, and at a certain point, it's just enough. And the reason he stepped down, I'm nearly certain, is because had he not, he probably would have been dismissed.
Oh yeah.
And he's 64 years old.
So, and apparently we're going to find out this week who the interim chief's going to be.
Yeah.
Okay, I wanted to move to the Marc Whyte situation. As our listeners know, and everyone who's been following local politics knows, Northside Councilman Mark White was arrested, I guess about a week and a half ago, driving while intoxicated on the 410 loop northeast near the airport. And one thing that we learned this past week is that El Mirasol is a really hopping place.
At a certain point in our reporting, we were asking people who at City Hall was not.
I have a little bit of like a little bit of envy that I wasn't there that night. Like I feel like I was the only person in San Antonio who was there.
She would have said Mike Suda or somebody.
Why weren't we invited to this?
Yeah. So here's what we know. So Marc Whyte, he flew home from a family trip in Australia on December 29th. He landed at Bush Intercontinental in Houston at about 10:30, drove back to San Antonio. I mean, this is a long haul flight, and he's why he didn't take a connector flight from I don't know, but drove back to San Antonio, got here, and said, you know what? I think I'm going to go hang out with some friends. So he went to El Mirasol, where he'd arranged to meet with some friends, including City Councilwoman.
Melissa.
Yeah.
Melissa Haverda.
Who is, she's a likely 2025 mayoral candidate. She's chair of the Public Safety Committee. So she's there. Suk Kaur is there. She's the new District 1 city councilwoman, although she was with a different group at a different table. So it sounds like it was coincidental. I
just wanted to mention too, this is relevant because she said she spoke to him for about 30 seconds, which I think is relevant because otherwise, you'd have like 3 members of the Public Safety Committee
That's
all
right,
there that I guess it would be a quorum.
You've got a quorum.
So I think she was quick to emphasize, I wasn't with them. I spoke to him very briefly.
Yeah. So you got these 3 council members at El Mirasol that Friday night, and Erica Prosper, Mayor Ron Nierenberg's wife. Just it appears to be purely by coincidence. She was there with friends at another table. They were exchanging gifts for the holidays.
No Wimby. He wasn't there.
No.
Everybody else was there.
No. In fact, we had sources emphatically telling us she said hello to Haverda and to Sukor. She did not say hello to Mark White that night. I think obviously
Wait, who didn't say hello?
Erica.
Oh.
Yeah. I think they want to maintain maximum distance, particularly after what happened later. So there were this group then walked over. This was all in Alon Town Center, which is a big kind of upscale shopping center on Northwest Military Highway. They decided then to walk over to Myron's Prime Steakhouse, have some drinks, some nibbles there, I guess. I don't know. Came back. And then from there, they were going to go to the Thirsty Horse Dance Hall and Saloon, which is like a mile south. As you do. After a transcontinental flight.
Yeah.
And as you do. So
I'm sorry I'm making light of this. I know that it's a serious thing.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Anyway, so Councilwoman Cabello Haverda wasn't feeling well. She had, like a lot of us, she was having problems with allergies.
That's Cedar.
And she said she was going to Uber home, but instead Mark White wound up taking her. And this was about 2 hours roughly before he was pulled over and charged with DWI. She... her comment to Megan Rodriguez, our City Hall reporter, was that he seemed fine at the time. But after dropping her off, he then apparently went to the Thirsty Horse.
How does this, or does it reflect on her at all? I mean,
I don't know that it does.
Yeah.
I don't believe it does.
Since he went back and
and she
more.
was, unlike him, she realized before she went to El Mirasol, she knew she would probably have a drink or two. So she took an Uber there. Yeah. She was planning to take an Uber back and she got a ride from him.
Right.
She really, she says he seemed fine. I mean, if you take her at her word, okay. But yeah, I mean, I don't see how she's implicated in this. Yeah, not really.
I mean, one of the things the reporting that the Express News had on that, which you've been editing, has been, that the response has been pretty muted from the city council.
It has. And that's because I think there are several reasons for that. One is kind of a basic one, which is there's no real provision in the city charter on how to handle situations like this when council members act badly. I mean, it allows for the removal of a council member for moral turpitude, but DWI is probably not going to meet the threshold definition of moral turpitude. So what's left to city council? To say nothing or to do no confidence votes, which are largely symbolic. They really have no bite to them at all. Council's kind of they don't know what to make of this. And, you know, you can look back to Clayton Perry, who was Mark White's predecessor in District 10. You'll remember, I mean, he kind of famously now, infamously hit Honda Civic at an intersection on the north side. He'd been drinking, fled the scene, went home, and the police showed up at his house within the hour. And, you know, the body cam video from that of him stumbling around incoherent in his backyard.
You had the hit and run factor. You had this,
that's right.
The embarrassment of the video.
Yeah. And that's my point. Like you had, even before we saw the body cam video of Clayton Perry, like just the details in the police report were damning enough that city council members felt like they had to do something. And, you know, you had Mayor Nuremberg come out with a very strong statement saying if these allegations against Clayton Perry are proven, he needs to resign. Go ahead.
I was going to say, Carrie, I mean, if you were on city council, what would your response to this be? I mean, it's weird. It's a colleague. Yeah. You're dealing with, but it's, you know, it's an issue. Driving while intoxicated is an issue that the city's been trying to deal with.
Oh, yeah. I was just going to. I do think it's important to note in comparing the two cases, like Mark White's and Clayton Perry's. Mark White was pulled over on Northeast Loop 410 access road for driving erratically. He didn't crash into anything. Yeah. There were no injuries, no accident. Anyway.
Yeah. First of all, I can't think of anybody on city council ever being removed for. And I'm thinking, just going back in my, to the 70s, I mean, you had some really outrageous behavior by, I'm thinking of one councilman in particular. If I'm a colleague, I think it's a difference between White and Perry, because apparently there was some history of where we haven't heard anything like this with White. Frankly, I don't think as a councilman, it's in my, I don't know what I could do, but to White's credit, you know, he did make as contrite a statement as you can make immediately after this. And one of the points we made also in writing about it was that I think the very first line, he talks about how I didn't think I was drunk. I don't think I've ever done this before, which to me, that's the point. And to me, that should be on the billboards everywhere, because it's one thing when you have someone like, and you know, we haven't seen any video yet of White, but when you have the video of Perry, which is clownish, he's obviously drunk. I mean, someone like that, you know, is drunk. A problem with a lot of folks who get behind the wheel every day, every night, who's been drinking, they don't think that they drink too much. Folks who have been around them don't think they've drunk too much. And it's not an issue until they actually kill themselves or kill someone else. So on one hand, we're all flawed human beings, and especially if this is the first time this has happened for White, then he should be forgiven. I don't think there should be anything done by his council members. But the tricky part of this is that it only needs, someone like Mark White should from here on in, he should just be one of the great advocates of don't drink at all just before you drive.
Absolutely.
Do what the councilwoman did.
I think all of them. I actually think all the city council people should not drink, or any elected official, school board members included, because, and members of the media. So I put myself on there too. And I like a margarita. I do. But
just don't get behind the wheel.
My husband, please drive, even if I just have a taste of it. And usually I'll drink a half, maybe, and I stop drinking it. But just like, make sure you're going to drive, or we get an Uber or whatever, even if it's just a taste, because I know it hits me quickly. So I don't know what my toxicology would come back as with half a drink. But I just feel like they should all be that billboard saying, you know what, we're not going to even do it. It's about the decorum of, having that office and respecting the office and being accountable. It's embarrassing, right? So I think that's part of it. That's part of his punishment for say, was, you know what, that embarrassment of everybody knowing he was caught, and that he did this really irresponsible thing, that unfortunately a lot of people in San Antonio do too much. Like he fits right in with a lot of San Antonio people. But I do think the provision should allow for something. I think it should allow for, like, after that first DWI, that's it. You know, I think that first warning, I think that after that, there should be some kind of consequence, because I mean, I just think it's a huge red flag at this point, and just to ignore it and just move on and say, okay, well, he was embarrassed, let's move on. I don't think that that's right either.
Part of council's hesitancy, I mean, other than you just don't have these big screaming details like you did in Perry's case. I mean, and that's really at the heart of why they're kind of struggling with how to respond. Now, there are two really big pieces of information that are still missing. The body cam video, which we're expecting sometime this week for SAPD to release it, and the blood alcohol content results, the test results. We're expecting that within the next several weeks. It usually takes about 30 days to get the results back. And by the way, so when he was pulled over, he refused a breathalyzer and a blood test on scene. The police got a judge to issue a warrant, and his blood was drawn at 1:30 that morning. So.
And then he started by saying he had one beer. Yeah. Then it became this two beers.
Yeah, one beer at
each location.
At each place. Yeah, and this was over, I mean, and this timeline is rough, but it looks like it was about over probably a little more than a 5-hour period.
You know, and I think something else that I saw, it was comments. It wasn't on the story because we don't have comments anymore, right, on our website. So it had to be social media. But I did see just a comment from a reader saying something like, well, it's a good thing that SAPD didn't let him off because he's a city council. And I think that the days of that, I mean, it's not possible. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think SAPD has showed, they've shown us time and time again that they're going to treat city council people like everyone else. Also, they have the cam. And so you can see everything that's happening. And I hope that people are starting to, like that person that pointed it out, are starting to say, like, you know what, if you're stopped, no matter who you are, you're going to have the consequences.
Yeah. I mean, with the media environment the way it is these days, it would be really difficult for SAPD to sweep any of these under the rug. I mean, it just wouldn't happen.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, think back to Clayton Perry. He wasn't arrested the night of the incident. And there was kind of some uproar of
that's right.
Why wasn't he? He clearly was drunk. He'd clearly been driving. But in that case, they had a police officer went to his house that night, had an interview with him. It was all captured on video, and it was a fairly his movements from the Evil Olive, which is where he'd been drinking. It's
these bar, names, these bars
to Bill Miller, to the intersection where he hit the car home. It's a kind of a complicated scene, but the police had time to investigate it, and that's what they did. So he was arrested 4 days after the accident.
You know, one thing with that too is if SAPD hadn't arrested both Perry and White, no telling what would happen after that. You know what I mean? Like, so that's part of it, is that they should be grateful to San Antonio police for stopping them. Yes, embarrassing, and yes, it ended Perry's career, and White is dealing with this still, and it's going to continue. But just no telling what would have happened after. Right. And so when we compare Perry to White, well, maybe police, and you'll get more answers for us. Your team will get more answers for us this week. But maybe they just stopped White sooner than they stopped Perry, than the things happened with Perry. And it was this thing of timing. Although we do know Perry drank a whole lot.
A lot. It
was quite a bit.
And getting to your point about what White had gone through that day, I mean, flying in from Australia, driving from Houston, if I'm just saying, if I had gone through all that, had even 3 drinks that day, I'd probably be weaving around. Quite honestly,
you would. But I mean, that's right. I mean, and like I said, that has nothing to do with how much. I mean, to me, that has nothing to do with how much he had to drink that night. The fact that he was tired. It's still a crime. It doesn't. That's right. It's a crime whether you're tired or not.
Absolutely.
To me, it's like I just can't imagine a long haul flight from Australia. A drive to San Antonio and then say, you know what? I want to end this night at the Thirsty Horse.
It's
you know,
it's kind of amazing.
I mean, I think I'd crash at home.
Yeah.
And why didn't none of these bars have dignified names like None of Evil Olive, Thirsty Horse, But
wanted to talk about the ceasefire resolution, which we talked about last week. This was introduced by Council members Terry Castillo, Jayla McKee-Rodriguez, and Manny Pelaez. The idea of trying to bring some unity to the community after there's been so much division over the conflict between Israel and Hamas since the October 7th Hamas attack against Israel. And the ceasefire resolution, I think, was the language was is pretty diplomatic, benign. It calls for an immediate ceasefire, but also calls for the release of all hostages. So I think it kind of tries to take into account the concerns of people on both sides of this issue. And this past week, we learned that one of the people behind the resolution, Manny Pelaez, asked for and received a delay on this from January 11th. They would have voted on it this week to February. Ron Nirenberg granted that,
and we don't know when exactly in February. Yeah, the reason, according to Manny Pelaez, was that there was such an outpour.
Yeah,
like when this became known, when we started reporting on it and other media outlets were writing about this meeting, which was supposed to take place January 11th, he and other council members were just kind of inundated with calls on both sides. Yeah. It sounds like. So he said, okay, let's step back and, we should talk with a few more folks before we take it to a formal council vote. Mm-hmm. So they pushed it back. He was teaming up with this on this resolution with council members Jayla McKee-Rodriguez in District 2 and Terry Castillo in District 5. Terry Castillo told us last week that there, at least one of the reasons for the delay is that Councilman Pelaez was going to be traveling a lot this month, and he wanted to be present for the vote. And so that was part of the reason they postponed it.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds plausible too.
I mean, pro-Palestinian activists have been supportive of this resolution, and a lot of the pushback has come from Jewish leaders. And there was a letter in late December from 28 San Antonio Jewish leaders to Mayor Nirenberg and members of the city council rejecting the resolution. And the reasons they gave were that they thought it suggests, quote, a moral equivalency between Hamas and the state of Israel, which they objected to. And they also said that that San Antonio Jews have been subjected to a lot of harassment since this conflict started in October, and that the nature of this resolution would create some sense in the community that San Antonio Jews were in some way culpable for the actions of the Israeli government. And it was a connection that they did not want. We've had some discussion about symbolic resolutions, the value of them, and also whether this, for all its good intentions, because I think there are good intentions behind it, whether it will actually bring about some unity or whether it could create even more division. I mean, Carrie, you weren't with us last week. What are your thoughts on this?
It depends upon the debate itself, and the motivations and the intentions of everyone involved, from the council folks who support the resolution to the people who come in and debate. Mm-hmm. What makes this whole situation such a, it's not the right word, but this tragedy so difficult is that you should not be, and I think too many folks on both sides, I'm talking about nationwide, want to make this a who's suffering more than the others.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Who suffered more on October 7th? Who's suffering more now? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And what happened on October 7th was an atrocity that you cannot justify. You cannot justify the slaughter. You cannot justify the sexual assaults. But but what's been happening to Gaza for years, you shouldn't be able to justify. Yeah. And you shouldn't be able to, you can't justify just the lack of precision bombing where you have children and, losing think I saw a stat over the weekend, children in losing a leg every day. But keep the focus on the people who are committing these crimes, be it Hamas or the Israeli government. Mm-hmm. And don't conflate the Israeli government with all Jews. Don't conflate Hamas with Palestinians. Mm-hmm. That's the suffering on both sides. And everyone should be able to understand that kind of inhumanity can never be justified, explained away, or minimized.
Yeah, and in response to what's happening, I think people have to be careful about where they start directing their criticism. And we start seeing some people saying, "Ron Nuremberg, you're allowing for genocide," or something like that, because maybe he hadn't put forward any statement, a pro-Palestinian statement, or hadn't called for an immediate ceasefire. I mean, there's been a lot of sort of absurd rhetoric where people have, in understandable anger and understandable frustration, have been lashed out at people who really don't have anything to do with this.
Yes, which is hurting their cause, right? So when they go about it that way, it paints all of them, all the protesters, with that same brush. And so then then people are just hesitant to even listen to what they're trying to say. It's because of the way they're saying it in so many ways. I know that the ceasefire resolutions, there's a piece in the New York Times recently about Democratic-led cities that have been doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. And some are very sharply worded, way different from the resolution here, and have words like apartheid and ethnic cleansing, and they really get to it, right? And they're passing them, and we're talking about Seattle, Oakland, San Francisco, places like that. I also feel like our city council members, like Jalen and Terry, and then also just people in the community who are voicing their support of this, that they feel also this political pressure to do it as well. So there's another level to it because others are doing it, right? Yep. And so you're also sending a message. If you're not doing this and you have some kind of, you have an office, you have a way to do it, even though it's symbolic, that you're not doing your job or you're not speaking up when you should or using your platform in a way that others are. So I do think that is a really big part of this that maybe we don't realize because we're just looking at the small circle of, San Antonio. Mm-hmm.
Before we wrap things up, I wanted to talk a little bit about Mayra Flores, who was elected to the U.S. House in a special election in 2022. Immediately, I think Republicans started getting a lot of national attention on conservative media, and Republican stars as a rock star because she was, the Republicans have been making a bid to flip the valley, and I think she was seen as like a young Mexican-American Republican who was kind of a sign of things to come. Mm-hmm. She did lose the November 2022 election to Vicente Gonzalez. The district map had been changed and made more conducive to Democrats, so that there was that factor. But she's now running again, and she was in the news this past week over some social media posts in which she's been posting images of food and cooking, and for example, one where she posted something and said the gorditas en masa and the ranch life with family is the best, and she has I think as the story emerged, there have been more examples that various media outlets have found where she's been posting these things, and these are not actually photos of anything that she's cooking. She's taking them from other social media sources, and not exactly saying that they're her own, that this is something she's cooking or this is her own photo, but that's definitely the implication. Am I wrong here?
And they're beautiful images. She should have given credit to whoever took them.
Here's this one: as a proud Latina who knows how to cook, homemade Mexican food tastes better from a gas stove, except that this is not something that she's cooking. And
that's not a gas stove. By the way.
Thanks for that.
That looks like wood to me.
Yeah. So, and because every political scandal in the United States of the past 50 years has had to have the gate attached to it, this situation has now been dubbed GrubGate.
I just wonder though, hold on. I just wonder if maybe she has a social media person on her team that does these, and all of a sudden she's like, you know what? I want to be more hands-on, and started it. Or if somebody from her team did it, because you never know. And so I'm just really curious, or did she hire an intern? Like what happened?
That
because
kind of speaks to the problem.
Yeah, I mean, he tweeted it.
It's right. I mean,
Why take it and save it and show it like it's yours?
It's like, look, when you write things like, I love the ranch life surrounded by my beautiful family, you're striving for authenticity.
Yeah.
Right? Like, isn't that it?
That's the idea.
If it's true that, and it's possible, it's totally possible that she's got a social media director who's doing all this stuff. What's she really telling us about her family life? I mean, really, what she's doing is trying to create a very specific public image, selling it to voters. It's like, look,
it would have been more authentic if she would have just gone to the drive-thru and got some taquitos and just put the picture and said, hey,
Well, keep in mind too,
you would have got him some business.
that one of the things about her, for all the hypes around her and all the sort of how much Republicans invested in her political future. If you look at her short time in Congress and her campaign in 2022, I mean, she never talked about anything but God, family, country, and I have the values of Mexican Americans and Latinos. She never really kind of. When it came to issues, she really never had much to say. So it was very much about these images, I think are relevant not only because she was kind of trying to pass something off that wasn't hers, but also because so much of what she's been about has really had very little to do with political substance. It's been much more just God, family, country, and I have the right values and so this kind of ties into that.
Yeah. Personality politics.
Personality politics. That's right.
I mean, she's creating a product, and she is the product.
Yeah, it's a brand. It's a brand. I also want to point out that
we didn't cook the product, but creating the product,
or even eat it.
But she found it. She appropriated it. We got to give her some credit for that. Before we wrap things up, I wanted to say that just to keep in mind about Mayra Flores, this is someone who. On January 6, 2021, just hours before the insurrection, she posted something. She tweeted on what was then Twitter, now X, saying, if we let Democrats steal this election, they're just going to steal them from now on. So since then, she has kind of tried to distance herself from the whole election denial thing, or she's kind of not wanted to talk about it too much, but she was very eager to talk about it at the time. She also described attorney Sidney Powell as an American hero. And yes, this is the same Sidney Powell who accused Dominion voting systems of rigging their machines to help Democrats win, and also has pled guilty to charges.
One of the first to take a plea.
In Georgia for tampering with that election or trying to undermine that 2020 election. So this is someone who she identifies as a hero.
Say what y'all want. I know whose election night party I want to go to though for food. So that's what I'm going to be.
Okay, so now we know that's what you're all about.
That would be. You don't want to just see pictures from it.
No, I'm going to up there.
All right. So it's going to be very interesting to see how Mayra Flores does in this election cycle. But she's trying to do some damage control right now. I think she said, let's just talk about the border. Let's talk about import. Now she wants to talk about
she should
some
go
real
have
issues.
Tacos on the border and post photos.
Yeah.
All will be forgotten probably.
Oh my God. So we're going to wrap things up there. Hope everyone's doing well. And thank you for listening. We'll be back next week. Take care.